Welcome to Amusing Jews, where we celebrate Jewish contributors and contributions to American popular culture. I'm Jonathan Friedmann.
And I'm Joey Angelfield.
Producer-engineer Mike Tomren is working somewhere behind the scenes. Amusing Jews is a project of Adat Chaverim, Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, the Cool Shul Jewish Cultural Community, and Atheists United Studios. Hey, Joey. Much of what we store in our brains is inert knowledge. Information we can absorb and express, but not necessarily use. But there's also learning by doing, the kind of knowledge we gain through active engagement. It's one thing to simply read a recipe or instruction manual. It's quite another thing to actually bake a cake or to assemble the 1985 G.I. Joe USS Flag aircraft carrier, one of my crowning achievements. A great way to actively learn is to host a television interview show that involves extensive research, meeting interesting people, and seeing the world through inquisitive eyes. That sort of show and that sort of learning is a specialty of today's guest.
We're excited to chat with Brad Pomerance, host of the award-winning television program Air, Land, and Sea, which airs weekly on the cable network Jewish Life Television. Beginning this fall, he'll be hosting Generations, a Jewish-themed genealogy series for JLTV. Brad also hosts Uncovered in the Archives, which he developed for PBS affiliate KVCR in Southern California. Brad, welcome to Amusing Jews.
And Dr. Jonathan Friedmann was on Uncovered in the Archives. That episode will be coming out probably this fall. I just got to say, Doc, you were amazing during that shoot. Absolutely amazing. So we'll put that aside.
Very nice. It's beshared. It's meant to be.
Exactly. Can I just say one thing? I was watching MSNBC last night, and they were talking about the shenanigans going on in Michigan in terms of the election, 2020, and the graphic said, Misha Goss.
Oh, interesting.
Craziness in Yiddish. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I know Nosh is in the public vernacular and even chutzpah is in the public vernacular, but Misha Goss on MSNBC, I mean, it was like the best day ever.
Somebody Jewish's keyboard autocorrect,
Clearly.
I guess. Yeah.
Clearly.
Brad, you started off as an attorney, including for Paramount Television. How did you make the leap into hosting TV programs?
I had this wild idea that I was going to be the next senator from the state of California. And so, of course, that means you have to go to law school, you have to work at a big law firm, and you might as well be an entertainment lawyer. And what I realized in the 90s, this was in the 90s, that it wasn't so much that I wanted to be an elected official, it's that I really enjoyed the conversation. And so I got very lucky, and I started working part-time at an NPR affiliate here, KPCC, in Los Angeles, a well-known NPR affiliate, and loved radio, really did. And then I kind of morphed into doing television, and I covered politics for over a decade, which was really quite a treat. While I was covering politics, I was working at Jewish Life Television part-time. My political show ended about 5 years ago, but had a great over decade-long run. And I rolled into JLTV full-time. And like you said, I've been hosting this travel history show on JLTV, and it has been, I'm incredibly, if I can say the word, blessed. To be hosting Air, Land, and Sea. I've traveled around the world and learned about the history of the Jewish people and Jewish communities today, and it has been, I could go on, and I probably will.
So as you mentioned, that show, Air, Land, and Sea, sends you around the world to places like Cuba and Jamaica and Japan and Malta and Taiwan, Turkey, the U.S. Virgin Islands, looking for the kind of secret Jewish history there. So I guess besides an opportunity to travel the world, what is it you hope to accomplish with that show?
There's a few things. The first thing is, while Judaism is a faith, you know this better than I, Jews are a people and an ethnicity. And our history has been quite remarkable and not necessarily monolithic. And, in America, 90% of us are what's known as Ashkenazi Jews, Eastern European Jews, maybe 5% Sephardic from Iberian Peninsula, 5% Mizrahi from the Middle East. And we're so focused on the Ashkenazi story, but the Sephardic story is fascinating. And so, I hope to kind of tell the story of the Jewish people, but all different types of Jewish people. Of course, the Ashkenazi story is an important one, but so is the Sephardic story and the Mizrahi story. And so that's what I hope to do, is tell the stories of different Jewish people.
Who would be the primary audience for that show? I would imagine other Jews, but do you find that other people as well?
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. So at Jewish Life Television, our audience is actually 80% non-Jewish.
Oh, interesting.
Non-Jewish. I mean, that's for a variety of reasons. I mean, look, the U.S. is 2% on a good day Jewish, and so it would be hard to get to 50% when you're only 2%. And so surely lots of Jews watch Air, Land, and Sea, but we get lovely feedback from our non-Jewish viewers as well. History's interesting, period. It's just, I mean, at least for a nerd like me. I mean, I'm interested in all history. I love the history of the African-American experience, of the Persian experience, whether Jewish or not, or whatever it may be. So I think history buffs like the show.
So continuing on that thread, you've probably learned some pretty surprising things while hosting Air, Land, and Sea. Would you care to share some with our audience?
Sure. I mean, here's one factoid that blew me away. So we all are familiar with, or I shouldn't be presumptuous, there was an event in 1492 called the Spanish Inquisition. Portugal followed suit in 1497. At the time, we believe that Spain and Portugal was anywhere between 10 to 20% Jewish. That's a huge number. To put that in perspective, Poland, on the eve of the Holocaust, was 11% Jewish. So Spain and Portugal was more Jewish than Poland was. Okay? And that's after, Jonathan, you can back me up, 1391, when there was like a kind of a pogrom mass conversion. So, I mean, Spain and Portugal was the center of the Jewish world. So file that. But then file this. Actually got chills because it's an amazing story. Spain and Portugal expels the Jews. Sultan Bayezid II of the Ottoman Empire literally sent an armada of ships, not one, an armada, to the Spanish shores, and it is believed that he picked up 150,000 Sephardic Jews. Think about in 1498, 150,000 of anything is massive. And he is quoted as saying, basically, King and Queen of Spain, King of Portugal, you're a bunch of bums. I'm going to get the Jews now, and they're going to help my Ottoman Empire grow. The Jews did help the Ottoman Empire prosper. Of course, working with their Muslim and non-Muslim compatriots, but the Jews were a huge asset to the Ottoman Empire for hundreds of years. And so think about that. A Muslim sultan sent an armada of ships and picked up 150,000 Jews. It's stunning. There are not many Jews left in modern-day Turkey. But they didn't flee because of anti-Semitism. It really didn't happen that way. They fled for a couple of reasons. They fled because, the Ottoman Empire fell apart in 1920-ish. And lots of people were fleeing. So it wasn't because they were riots or pogroms. They were looking for better lives. And then in the 40s, late 40s, when Israel became a nation, there was a huge sense of Zionism. And so a lot of them left then. Same in Morocco. The king of Morocco. This is an undeniable fact. And I was just in Morocco on Air, Land, and Sea. Remember, Morocco was a French protectorate during World War II. So when the Germans went in, Vichy France became, the controlling force. The Germans and Vichy France said to Morocco, give us your Jews. There were over 300,000 Jews in Morocco, 4% of the population. You know what the king of Morocco said, the Sultan? We don't have any Jews. We just have Moroccans. You know how many Jews were deported from Morocco? Zero. Because the king of Morocco said, we don't have any Jews. We just have Moroccans. He was also requested to put on the yellow stars. You know what the king of Morocco said when the Vichy France had put on yellow stars? if that's the case, you need to give us 40 more because the royal family is going to be putting them on as well.
So when I first met you, as you were alluding to on your history show, Uncovered in the Archives, we had this kind of side conversation about being cultural Jews who are also very committed to being Jews and to sort of Jewish history and Jewish culture. And a colleague of mine, Diane Rose, who leads the Cool Shul Jewish Cultural Community, a partner of this show, told me a while ago that she was at a funeral where a rabbi lamented that the man being buried didn't go to synagogue, to which another rabbi who was there responded that maybe the man was too busy being Jewish to go to synagogue. And this really resonated with me. And I was wondering if, your work for JLTV, if you consider that to be another way of practicing Judaism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess I'll, go public. I don't go to the temple that much. I can't lie. But I am Jewish in my every fiber. Every cell of me is Jewish. I don't know if I'm a humanistic Jew. I don't know. But I get humanistic Judaism, believe me. I get it. And I think you can be as Jewish as anyone and be an atheist. Now, that's blasphemy to many. But I know a lot of atheist Jews, and a lot of them go to temple more often than I do. Let me tell you that. A lot. And that's not just in America. That's around the world.
Yeah, there are atheist Orthodox Jews.
Yeah, yep, 100%. And then, Dr. Friedman, that's kind of what I see as kind of the beauty of modern Judaism, is that we're debaters, we accept people as they come, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. I love that about us. I do.
So personally, I'm really excited to hear you talk a little bit about, Jewish history in the Ottoman Empire. My family's background is Sephardic, and I would say is much more influenced by the, Ottoman Empire countries that they grew up in, more so than, the little bit of Ladino that they spoke, which is like ancient Spanish. But Brad, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, maybe go a little more in depth about your experiences with air, land, and sea in Muslim majority countries.
In the last couple of years, we have traveled to Turkey and Morocco. Very different countries, but most of the Jews that lived in Turkey and Morocco do descend from Iberia, Spain, and Portugal. I have to tell you that Turkey and Morocco, as governments, are spending millions of dollars to revitalize Jewish institutions, to renovate synagogues, cemeteries, whatever it may be. And when I interview government officials about why they're spending millions of dollars, they don't understand the question. Their answer is uniformly, well, why wouldn't we? I mean, it's our history. It's our history. They consider Jewish history in their countries their history. My experience has been that Muslims appreciate contributions of Jews to their countries and want to keep that history alive without question. And it was very, very moving. In Europe, cemeteries are dilapidated. And you don't see a big push to maintain Jewish institutions at a governmental level. It's complicated. A lot of that is in Eastern Europe, where they're just coming. I know it's been 30 years coming out of communism, but it's still the hangover of communism. But not in Morocco and Turkey. They are keeping Jewish history alive.
Speaking of your kind of earlier political aspirations and your interest in history and the world, I wonder if you have any thoughts on Vladimir Zelensky.
Oh, I do have thoughts on Vladimir Zelensky. And I will mention that on JLTV, we are airing Servant of the People, the sitcom that catapulted him to the presidency. I think he's a modern-day Maccabee. I am incredibly proud of him first as a human, but second as a Jewish man. And for Vladimir Putin to call him a Nazi, I mean, he is the descendant of Holocaust survivors and Holocaust victims. I mean, the temerity for Vladimir Putin to say that, and for Ukraine to have elected him, what is it, with 70% of the vote? And it's not like people don't know he's Jewish. They know he's Jewish. His last name's Zelensky. They know. I think he will go down in history as, putting it even aside the fact he happens to be Jewish, as one of the greatest leaders of the modern era.
Yeah, I agree. And I was telling someone who was kind of surprised that I said it. I don't know what the surprise was about, that perhaps Zelensky is the most important Jew living today.
I think that statement can absolutely be defended. And if I remember correctly, I believe the Jerusalem Post last year named him the most influential Jew. I believe that's accurate. And he was named Man of the Year by Time Magazine. I mean, how could we not be proud? I mean, this man is staring Vladimir Putin down. And he's Jewish. I mean, look, he's a human first, but it's kind of cool, kind of cool.
We sort of alluded to it a little bit, but would you tell us a little bit more about JLTV? You told us about one program that's on the network, and I'm excited to kind of watch that. But yeah, what other types of programs are on the network, and who's the target audience?
Yeah, so JLTV is a cultural network. It's not a religious network. So we have several other people, like I mentioned. We have two highly respected Israeli shows, Fauda, which is ranked number 8 by the New York Times in terms of international shows of the 2010s. And if you haven't seen it, Prisoners of War, the ranked number 1 best international show of the 2010s. Prisoners of War became Homeland on Showtime. It's amazing. It is so good. We are bringing back Bubby's Know Best, 3 Jewish grandmothers setting people up on dates. Jews, non-Jews, gay, straight, purple, pink, we don't care. They're setting up people up on dates. News and information, of course. Classics like the old Goldbergs, not from this decade, but from the 1950s. Lots of documentaries and films. And the network is for everyone. It's for Jews, non-Jews, whomever is interested. It's not called Jewish television. It's called Jewish Life Television.
Your new show, Generations, is premiering soon. How did it come about, and what can we look forward to?
So I have been a genealogy nerd my entire life. And I think that's probably why I'm hosting Air, Land, and Sea, because I'm so fascinated by Jewish history. And because, I think modern Jews are a miracle, meaning, how are we still here? We managed to survive, Egypt, Rome, the spread of Christianity, the pogroms, the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisitions, the Black Plague, the pogroms, the Holocaust. I mean, I can't believe we're here. And so I think that's why genealogy always fascinated me. So I got to, how it happened is I was connected to the president of the Museum of Jewish Heritage, which is the second largest Holocaust museum in the country in New York. They own Jewish Gen, which is the largest genealogical website in the world. They have participated in other genealogy programs that are currently on the air, and felt it was time to spearhead their own. And so they wanted to partner with us, which was an incredible honor. And then they said, we think you should be the host, which was really quite stunning. And it is public knowledge that our first guest is Cameron Manheim. Cameron, you may know from The Practice and now Law and Order. Her son is also an accomplished actor himself. He's young, 22, 3, but he's had a great run on some Disney Channel shows. And I can tell you what we have learned has been nothing short of stunning. Our concern had been that every episode would go Poland, Holocaust, New York. That is not happening in the Cameron Manheim story by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there's a little bit of Poland, but not a lot. And there's some other country in Europe and not New York, and states you wouldn't expect Jews to be. And in years, you wouldn't expect Jews to be in America. And so, and I'll say this, what I love about generations and genealogy shows generally is, yes, it's celebrities, but it's a vehicle to tell history, And so Cameron and Milo, her son, and her brother Carl, who's on the show, they're helping us tell the story of Jewish life during certain eras. The amount of press we've received, and the show hasn't even launched. It's exploded on social media, articles everywhere, really inspiring. And the great news is that the launch later this fall comes at a time when JLTV is expanding its distribution. Over the last year, we've launched on Cox Communications, which is the dominant cable operator in Phoenix and Tucson, Santa Barbara, Las Vegas, outside of D.C., New England. Now, Charter Spectrum is rolling out over this month, which is August, JLTV in the rest of their footprint. That gives us more distribution, especially in the Midwest, like Kansas City and St. Louis and Wisconsin and Kentucky and Michigan. And so even though cable's struggling a bit with cord cutting, Aunt Pearl, metaphoric Aunt Pearl, she's not cutting the cord. You don't mess with her cable. And so we're expanding on cable.
That sounds great. Thanks so much, Brad, for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my treat.
And to our audience, back to your regularly scheduled lives.
Amusing Jews is here to amuse you. If you like being amused, go ahead and click like and subscribe.